Okay, sure. I put it on wide angle, so.
What do you
Okay, is it recording?
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever. If the angle's on.
Jaelen.
Jaelen, nice to meet you. You're speaking. What's your name?
Yashree.
I'm Josh. Nice to meet you. No, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay. Cool. Alright, so for those of you that can make it, thank you for coming. I know a lot of the first years have a big exam tomorrow, but this is going to be our panel of beyond the degree. So basically exploring some potential opportunities for careers and what life looks like after undergrad. So to start off, these are our panelists. So we can kind of go from left to right. A little quick introduction of where you guys are coming from.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Yashree. I currently work at Mars Discovery District and I work as an associate on their corporate innovation team. I'll explain what that means later. But yeah, nice to meet you guys.
Hi everyone, I'm Josh. I'm a first year MD PhD student at U of T.
I'm Noah. I'm a second year master's student at U of T.
My name's Isabella. I'm in my second and last year of U of T's PA program.
Hi everybody, my name is Jaelen. I'm in my second year at U of T studying econ and stats, and I'm also a process improvement analyst at Teladoc Health.
Wonderful. Okay. So kind of just like our first question, we can also go the same route. Why did you choose this path? And like what drew you to the graduate program or the certain industry you might be in? And was this always your goal in undergrad?
I'd say that for me, I think I kind of fell into the job that I'm in. It wasn't a pretty straightforward path.
Do you want a microphone?
Sure. I don't know if people can hear me clearly, otherwise I can, hello, speak on this. Okay. So I did my undergrad from the University of Minnesota and I studied economics and statistics, and then I kind of worked a little bit as a retirement planning consultant. It was COVID. I was just glad to have a job at the time, so I just did whatever I could find. But I wasn't really interested in it after a couple of years of working there, and so I applied for the master's program here at the Monk School. So I completed my master's in global affairs last year from the Monk School because I wanted to move more into policy work, and my degree kind of helped me in that. Post my degree, my work at Mars, I think I kind of fell into it because during my degree I did an internship and got more involved in the sustainability space. Also my focus as part of my master's degree was in innovation policy, and Mars basically works with Canadian startups that are all in the innovation space. So like both those things added up. So yeah, it ended up working out perfectly well, and yeah, that's kind of how I landed up where I did.
Awesome.
Yeah, so my goal initially was just med school. Out of undergrad, I was one of those pre-med gunners. I was like, I'm going to med school, that's my life, that's it. And people told me that research was kind of like something you had to do to get into med. So that's what I did in undergrad. I did a few labs, tried it out, did an undergrad thesis, and I realized I really enjoyed research too. That led me to doing a master's in IMS at U of T. So through those two experiences, my co-op through Waterloo in undergrad, I did all my co-ops at SICKID, so I think it was like 2 years of full-time lab work, and then my master's, which was another 2 years in another lab. Like all that combined really influenced me to be on that cutting edge of healthcare research, and I thought that I didn't want to give up my dream of being a doctor, but also I really enjoyed the back end of it too, like figuring out new treatments and new approaches to medicine. So I decided the MD PhD is probably my best bet, just so we have the combination of both the clinical side, but also the research side. It is a long program. It's 8 years with 2 doctorate degrees, but the benefit of the U of T program is that they do fund you for the full 8 years. So I thought that was a big drawing factor for me, and that's why I ended up applying. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I'm happy to chat about it as well if anyone else has a similar goal with med school or PhD or both. So just, you shoot me a message on Teams or LinkedIn or wherever, and I'll get back to you. Yeah.
Awesome. So I think for me, it was a lot of the same path. I went into undergrad at Queen's in health science, like a lot of health science kids do, thinking gonna go straight to med school. That was just gonna be what I did, straight 4 years of med school, then start working. Didn't really think too much about research other than, you know, having something to do outside of the classroom, ways to get involved. And eventually, it was a little bit different for me because my first year was during the pandemic, so it was a bit of a slow start getting involved in labs. But when I did, I found I really enjoyed it. It was awesome, so cool to be able to do something that I just was curious in and that had an impact in the world, something, you know, part of something bigger than yourself. And for me, you know, after 4 years, it was kind of taking a step back, thinking about where do I really want to go. And it was ultimately through that I decided to do a master's at U of T and kind of spend some more time doing research and just learning, taking more time to really understand different options that I had. So for me, the decision to pursue a master's was really so I could open up some more doors. I could still go to med school and pursue that route, pursue a PhD, or even leave after 2 years with a master's and move into the private sector. And kind of now in my second year, I think I'm leaning towards the MD PhD route for similar reasons that Josh just spoke about. But I think the best part about the process has been the opportunities to do multiple things and really just find what's right for me while doing work that I've been really excited about. I enjoy going to work every day, and like I've grown so much and learned so much in the last 2 years. So.
Yeah, so I did my undergrad at U of T. I did my 4 years there. I majored in neuroscience, did minors in immunology and psychology. And like probably many of you guys here, I was on kind of that pre-med path. So I was very determined I'm gonna go to med school. I was volunteering at my local hospital 2-3 days a week. I was in their emerge, in their surgery department. In around, I think it was the summer of my second year of undergrad, I applied to the SURE program at Sick Kids, and I was doing research through Sick Kids. Wanted to get more research experience in my 4th year. I did a thesis project at Sick Kids, and then I kind of thought, okay, what is it that I want to do? I ended up liking research a lot more than I thought I would. Originally I did it because I'm like, it's kind of a requirement for med in a way, where you kind of just have to push yourself into it. But I ended up really liking research, but I knew I wanted to do something applied within the health sciences, and that's when I kind of went back to the PA program. I had first heard about it when I was actually applying to university, when I was at a career fair, and I kind of thought, okay, this is a 2-year program, so it's accelerated, but it's nice that it's condensed, and I could do it within 2 years. And what's nice kind of about the profession is after you graduate, you're not limited to a residency or a certain specialty, you're trained as a generalist. So I could go after my 2 years right into practice and kind of applying the skills that I learned. And I knew that when I was deciding between kind of research, I had applied to my master's at the same time as the PA program. I figured once I'm actually kind of working as a PA, once I'm seeing what the problems in healthcare are and kind of the patients that I see and kind of their problems and their barriers, research was always something that I could go back to kind of as a clinician. And it's not something that I would completely close myself off to. I know that kind of after these 2 years, there's kind of lots more that I can do, whether it's practice, research, policy, etc.
Hi everybody. So I'm actually not in grad school. I'm in my second year here at U of T, but going into U of T, I thought that I wanted to be in the sciences. My whole family, they're all in healthcare. So my dad's an RPN down at Bridgepoint Health. I have a bunch of family who are also nurses in America. My whole family, they're just basically all in healthcare. So basically, my dad was like, hey, you're gonna be our first doctor in our family. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess so. My dad had this camera that I used to mess around with when I was little. And I used to make YouTube videos. I feel like everyone has really had that phase of trying to make YouTube videos when they were a little kid. So I really loved doing that. I didn't get much views, but I knew that I loved working with cameras. So when I was in high school, again, like I had the connection with my dad. He really allowed me to be the person who I am today when it comes to my workload. And in high school, I did panels like this. I did a bunch of research down at UHN when I was a high school student. And I really thought, okay, my dad and my whole family, they're all in healthcare. I'm gonna be the first doctor in my family. But then I repeated that like a bunch of times. I'm like, I'm gonna be the first doctor in my family. I'm like, I don't know if I wanna do that. And yes, it's not saying that I was horrible at sciences. I found that I actually really liked it. But I knew that it wasn't for me. And kind of, being able to expand my horizons in media, especially with math. My dad put me in Kumon. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but yeah, that was a really big part of my life, and I knew I was good at math. So that really led me to go into business. But then when I was applying for undergrad, I wanted to go into business, but then my dad was like, "What are you gonna do with a business degree?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't even know." So I applied to life sciences, and my first year at U of T, I thought that, okay, because I had so much experience with research in high school, I'm going to be able to translate that when I go into my first year of undergrad. But in my first year, I practically had nothing. I didn't really want to put myself out there. I was really scared of kind of, going to big hospitals and being like, "Hey, can you guys give me a volunteer position here?" And actually at my first interview at a big hospital, I shook the girl's hand, we met each other, and she asked me, "Why do you want to work in healthcare?" And for a very long time, I was studying, what I was going to say. But when she had asked me that, she was like, "Oh, why do you want to work in healthcare?" I was like, "I don't know." And we kind of looked at each other, and she was like, "What do you mean you don't know?" And I was like, I don't know. I took Eco 101 and Eco 102 as an elective, and I found that, that really spoke to me. And being able to work with U of T's Sport and Rec division, I met this guy named Arvin. He's a producer down at Simply Living Studios. So being able to kind of connect my, camera experience with him, that led me to become a production assistant at Simply Living Studios. So that's a really big thing about my life. And yeah, working in the creative industry just really allows me to have that passion, with the whole YouTube thing when I was little, and being able to translate that now in my second year here at U of T makes me feel, yes, I do want to be in this industry, and it's not something that, my parents are going to push me in. It's something that I genuinely and truly feel that I have a passion for. And that's why I'm in Econ and Stats.
That's really cool.
So kind of getting into your type of experience during your day, could you describe any projects that you guys are currently working on? What does your routine look like at the job, and what kind of programs and in your job programs what kind of people do you not talk do people not talk about enough?
Okay, since I have the mic, I can start. I'm an analyst down at Teladoc Health. I know I just talked about not wanting to be in healthcare, but I currently do work in healthcare, but in the business side. Basically what I do is I kind of analyze all the inefficiencies that we have at our company. So I work at Teladoc Health. It's a telemedicine company located in New York. Well, the main office is in New York. I work at the Toronto office, obviously, because I'm here right now. So that is my part-time job. But as a production assistant down at Simply Living Studios, I get to work with actresses. One of the big projects that we had over the summer was working with Avenor. He's an R&B artist in Toronto. He's not the biggest one right now, but being able to work on set, and especially, as I mentioned, the whole thing with the YouTube thing, I used to just screw around on my dad's camera, but then now I'm being able to work with, producers and directors, and being able to manage all these upcoming actresses and talent. It's something that I just love to do. I also work with NFL Canada, so I work in the marketing department over there. I always loved sports growing up, so being able to kind of put my passion with working in film and working in the industry really makes me happy.
So just to give some context in terms of what I'm doing now, this time last year I was doing my didactic year for the physician assistant program. So physician assistants work under the delegation of a physician. So basically any kind of task that they can do, you can do. So it ranges from history taking doing physicals, ordering lab tests, interpreting those lab tests, creating treatment plans, kind of administering vaccines, doing sutures, procedural work, and all that. So in the first year of the program, I was in didactic year. So U of T's program is actually asynchronous with the exception of around 4 weeks that you're in person. So you start off the program with 3 weeks in person where you're learning all those kind of physical exam skills, how to auscultate the lungs and the chest, how to palpate the abdomen and feel for different organs. Then after that, you kind of do your standard like anatomy, physiology, kind of your core courses. Then you move on to the more fun stuff, your diagnostic imaging, your pharmacology, your pathology. And you kind of continue with those courses throughout your first year, and then you end off with something called medical foundations. So that kind of brings everything together where you're learning up to like between 50 and 100 diseases per body system per week. And you're kind of going through kind of the background, the pathophysiology, signs, symptoms, investigations, and management. And that all prepares you for your second year. So in the second year of the program, and it's 24 consecutive months, so you do your kind of your first year didactic up until August, and then September you start your rotations. So there's 10 rotations in total. There's 7 core rotations, so everyone starts off with 6 weeks in family medicine, and then the other ones include emergency medicine, internal medicine, psychiatry, general surgery, I'm forgetting one, pediatrics, and then you do another 6 weeks of family medicine, and then you have 3 electives that you can choose. So part of the program as well is you have to go kind of up north in Ontario and do up to 5 months of practice there, and that can kind of be for any of those rotations or specialties. So for me, I started in September in family medicine at a clinic in downtown Toronto, and I most recently just finished my second rotation in emergency medicine for 4 weeks at South Lake Hospital. So right now, what life was kind of looking like is wake up in the morning. I would start at 7 a.m. at the hospital for Emerge, kind of go in, talk to patients, kind of ask them what brings them in, take that history, do the physical exam, and then kind of go back outside, chat with my preceptor, and they would ask, okay, what do you think's going on? What do you want to do? You would kind of discuss that management plan with them, determine next steps, go back, inform the patient, and then kind of wait for their results to come back, follow up, reassess. Emerge was nice that I got to engage in more like procedural skills, so like the sutures, the incision and drainage, removing things like nasal catheters for people who came in with nosebleeds. So that was a lot of fun. Family medicine, which I did before that, was really similar. It was a very busy clinic being downtown Toronto, but what was nice about that was kind of the continuity of care where I was seeing some patients in my first or second week, then I would see them again for follow-up in my 4th week, and then again my 6th week. So that was something different between family med and emergency med. But yeah, so next I'm moving on to internal medicine at Michael Garron Hospital for 4 weeks, and then I continue with psychiatry at CAMH. Then I'm doing general surgery somewhere up north, that one's not determined yet. I do 4 weeks pediatrics in Sault Ste. Marie, 6 weeks of family medicine in Sudbury, and my electives are to be determined.
So for me, I think the first thing I want to say is masters can be, or they are, very unstructured, and especially me because I do mostly dry lab work. A lot of my days are pretty self-directed, and I spend a lot of my time, working on my computer. And in my lab, we study childhood brain cancer, and my role is to lead a project on mostly genetic sequencing data, looking for patterns of mutations that might help us inform how these kids are developing cancer, what treatments we can use, and ways we can recognize them better. So in the clinic, doctors can recognize them earlier and treat them earlier and hopefully improve outcomes. So throughout the day, I wake up typically around 8 or 9, go into the lab, spend a full day working on my project, working on coding, analyzing genomes. But we also do a lot of sort of interactive work in the lab, a lot of interconnectedness between students, and I help with other projects. We have big lab meetings once a week. I have meetings with my supervisor every few days and with other students as well to kind of keep on top of what everyone's doing and kind of make sure everyone is getting the help they need, and kind of it's a very collaborative environment, and I think a lot of labs work in a similar sort of way. One thing I feel that isn't talked enough about in terms of a master's and in research is that depending on what project you do, your work can look very, very, very different. There's a lot of different diverse roles you can have in the lab. especially within the same lab. For example, some of our students spend all day in the wet lab, and sometimes I rarely see them because they're doing days-long protocols, whereas mine, I'm more in the dry lab, doing my own thing on my own timeline. So, which is nice because it's more flexible and it works well for me, but it's also a little bit more unstructured. So I'd say, for me it works, but the great thing is you can kind of work with your supervisor to find a project that you're interested in, but also suits your learning style and work habits, which is really interesting.
Yeah, so I'll start with the third question, which was like talk about something that's not really talked about for your program. So for the MD PhD, it's a combination of grad school and med school. So you need to be able to pivot between both of those learning styles, as the previous panelist just mentioned. So for clinical, it is very structured. That's what I'm in right now. I'm in M1. So it's just pure didactic learning. You have weekly objectives and there's mandatory things you have to be at. If you skip, you get a professionalism review, and then that looks pretty bad on your record. So you need to make sure that you're on task and you're focused and you're following the objectives and meeting the weekly goals. You have exams every 2 weeks. We just finished dermatology and immunology, and then we're starting microbiology next week. So you have to just be able to pivot pretty fast on what you're learning. But the cool thing is that after those 2 weeks, you write your test, and then you don't have to worry about it for a while. So every week there's a certain like topic you're learning. Could be like cardiology, respirology, nephrology. It changes every week, and you just have to be ready for it and attend lecture. That's one of the big things. Like, don't skip, because if you skip, you're going to be behind. Then for grad school, it is very unstructured. There's no weekly objectives. There's no one's going to hold your hand. You have to just do it yourself. You have to figure out all the lab techniques, do all the readings, do the experiments, write the papers, meet with your PI and show them what you've done. And if you don't have anything to show, then you're going to be progressing slowly. So you have to make sure that you're on task there too. But it's more like figuring it out yourself in a sense. So I came out of a master's, and so I experienced it firsthand, and also in my undergrad too. My PI was pretty hands-off and to figure out a lot of things myself. So that is something that is not really talked about. You have to be able to balance both of those learning styles. For me, it's going to be 2 years of med first, and that's going to be very structured, but then my PhD is going to be unstructured, then back to structured in my final 2 years of clerkship. So that's essentially what it is. Right now, the projects I'm working on two, one at SickKids and one at Sinai. So for the SickKids one, it's scoliosis. It's a continuation of some of the preclinical work I did in my undergrad with scoliosis. So essentially, we found a biomarker for scoliosis that can predict when it might occur in children. And right now, it's idiopathic, meaning we don't know why and how it's caused. But essentially, we scan children's spine with ultrasound, and we look at the stiffness of the intervertebral disc, and that can predict when and how the child might get scoliosis. So I'm working on post-processing correlation data for that right now. At SickKids, that's just like 1 day a week. And then at Sinai, I want to get my master's paper published. So we're just collecting some final data and then writing up the draft of the manuscript for that. So my master's was on right heart cath in healthy subjects, looking at the changes in their cardiac pressures and some other hemodynamic measurements from lying down and standing up. And that essentially will give us an idea of how diseases like postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome might manifest, where people stand up and they get like really high heart rates, and then it's pretty debilitating for them. It can also give us some ideas how heart failure might manifest too. So I'm essentially just working on those very lightly, 1 day a week, and then my majority of my time right now is med school. So, yeah.
My day is completely different from that, since I have a 9-to-5 job. So log in at 9 a.m., log out at 5 p.m. That's my daily work. But in terms of, I don't know how much you guys know about Mars. Probably would have seen the building right next to Queen's Park Station. But I can give you a little bit of information about like what Mars actually does, and then what the corporate innovation team and what I do on the corporate innovation team. So Mars is mandated to support Canadian technology startups. and they do that in a bunch of different ways. We run venture cohorts, we help them with securing funding, we help them with peer mentorship, we have business advisors that kind of help these startup founders in essentially scaling their businesses. And two of the biggest verticals that we have within that is climate and health sciences. So initially Mars had started off with just focusing on startups that work in healthcare. There are a bunch of different ones that we support, there are different programs related to them as well. And then we kind of also started looking into climate, pretty broadly, climate and sustainability. And so there's the venture side of it, and I work on the corporate side of it. So I work on a team which focuses mostly on the larger corporate partners. So we have a bunch of corporate partners that are all across Canada and also some international that are pretty interested in the newer technology that is cropping up. And they're looking at Canada to be the place that they want to invest in or get to know more about the technology. And so basically we connect our corporate partners with the appropriate ventures so that they can get to know more about it and then adopt that technology, probably invest in those organizations as well. Right now what we're focusing on is building, similar to a venture cohort, we're thinking of building a corporate adopter cohort. So that's bringing together 3 or 4 corporates based on a specific theme. So right now my team looks at buildings, so anything that's related to the built environment also is included within it. We have something called as Mission from Mars. There are different themes for this. So one of them is better buildings, one of them is food and ag tech, one of them is carbon removal, one is, I think, public procurement. So we have had like these different missions. So essentially what we do in that, we have like a venture cohort where we bring in ventures that have technology that is related to these themes, and then we bring together a corporate cohort. So currently the corporate cohort that I'm working on is focused on the hospitality and recreational sector. So thinking about the emissions that hotels have, which is quite a lot, and thinking of ways in which they can actually cut down on their emissions while also cutting down on their operating costs and not, skimping out on customer experience. So what we're doing right now is bringing them together, taking them through 18 months of programming where we basically introduce them to startups. We engage with them, we figure out the problems and the challenges that they're looking at in their facilities. There might be very specific issues, there might be larger issues. And then after we take them through that set of programming, we have demo days, we have innovation showcases where we bring in all the startups that we're working with, and eventually leading to a pilot project. So that pilot project could be in the entire facility, so it could be in the entire building, or it could be in a specific room. Just something to get them started, get them interested, and invest in adopting that technology. So that's kind of the main project that I'm working on. And my focus is mostly on building up that program, like what exactly that program will look like and how will we engage these corporates, because the biggest pushback that we see, like if you've worked in the sustainability sector or know anything about it, is that money matters the most. So if it's anything that requires a huge amount of capital investment, people are not interested in it. Even if it saves the planet, they're like, we actually do not care. So trying to get them interested, trying to get them in the same room, and getting them excited about newer technologies is kind of like the main part of the job. So that's, in a nutshell, what I do on a daily basis.
Nice. Okay. We can also start here, but we want to kind of gauge what are the challenges, sacrifices, and trade-offs that you deal with in your certain realms. So maybe it could be things like dealing with burnout, rejection, uncertainty. But how was that a means to a better end? How was it worth it? And how did you overcome things like imposter syndrome or those things that we mentioned, like burnouts, in your program or workplace?
I can start off with like the first part. I think the biggest challenge in this time that we live in is just the uncertainty that keeps coming and creeping up in terms of the jobs that exist / now don't exist, with AI, with other tools coming in, and the amount of experience that they ask you when you try and go and apply for jobs and internships, like that's something that I faced right out of my master's program. I didn't have any previous policy experience, and that's the one thing that I wanted to get into and I wanted to apply for. Also looked for a lot of jobs within the sustainability sector. I had one internship that I had done with a nonprofit during my master's program, which wasn't enough because now there are sustainability management degrees, there are environmental sciences degrees, and when people have studied those things and have had experience in those fields, it's obviously, you know, they have a step ahead than maybe someone like me. And so to break into an industry that you may not have had work experience in was one of the hardest things to do. And for me, the only thing that kind of worked was to find projects and to find other like research work that could kind of supplement the things that I wanted to do or I'm interested in, or conferences that I could attend and possibly network with people. The job that I currently have at Mars, I was working at a previous organization where I interacted with someone that now works on my team and was able to, you know, tell me about the current position, and I spoke to them, and then I got the opportunity to work there. So I think the uncertainty that kind of exists with, I don't know about all industries, but most right now, that's a bit challenging to navigate sometimes. When I think about imposter syndrome, I'll say I faced it when I actually first started my master's degree as well, because again, there were a lot of things within the policy, social sciences area that my econ degree was heavily math-based. So a lot of the readings and the stuff that I actually had to end up doing my first semester, I wasn't expecting. And a lot of the people that had probably studied political science or sociology, like they were a bit ahead in that. So my first imposter syndrome happened there, where I was like, everybody knows everything and I don't know anything. But I think it's just a matter of time. Even at my current workplace, I'll say that I'm not someone that's worked there for a really long time, so it took me like a good 6 months to like feel confident, find my footing. But I think that happens whenever you start anything new, because you don't know what you don't know, and so there's a lot of questions that you have, and I think the only way to kind of get through it is to trust that. Like there's a reason why you ended up where you did. Like whether it's a master's program, whether it's med school, whether it's a job, like there's a reason why you made it where you did, and it may just take some time, but you will actually move ahead and you will feel more confident as you keep doing the same things again and again and again. Also helps to have a good team. So whether, like again, for me at my workplace, having a great manager, having a great team, really, really important, just for your mental health, also for your career in general. And I would say, like, before grad school, like, if you have professors, if you have, like, people around you that can kind of support you in that process, it's helpful. But I personally feel like, you know, imposter syndrome is something that, you know, everybody kind of goes through to some degree, a little bit. It just varies in like how much it actually ends up affecting you in whatever position you're in. But for me, the only thing that's worked is just to trust the fact that, okay, I do know what I'm doing. It's not that I'm completely clueless, and maybe it'll take me some time to figure out, you know, what file is saved in which folder, but that's fine. I'll figure it out tomorrow. So yeah.
I would say that rejection is just part of the process. Everyone's going to experience it, and I've experienced my fair share of it too. Just to be transparent, I applied 3 times before I got into med. I know that it is really challenging, but yeah, the 3rd time did work out, and U of T was the only one that I actually got an interview for and then got accepted into. So yeah, that's just sometimes that's just how it is, and there will be rejection in the future. That's what you have to just be prepared for. And it doesn't end after med. You have to apply to residency, you have to apply for a staff position, then for, you know, as a scientist as well, you have to apply for grants. You know, you have to apply for a scientist position to start, you know, running your lab, be a PI. So the applications and the you know, fear of rejection will never leave in the career path that I'm in. It's always there. And then I know that can lead to, you know, imposter syndrome, burnout, and so on, but we're very lucky in the program that we have access to strong mentors. I think that leading into your senior mentors is really important. So all the upper years, there's eight or nine MD PhDs per year, so that's like 64 people. There's people in like 8th year MD PhD, and those are the people that I'll talk to and ask them like all the tips and tricks and hacks to like overcome that and see where they are. So like once if you see people that are in a place that you want to be eventually, that's who you want to talk to, and then get some reassurance and then learn about their path and just talk to as many people as possible so that you might have an idea of what you want to do in the future as well. And then for burnout, I'd say like just have a life outside of research and your career. Like for me, I really like going to the gym, really like traveling. I'm also a Don at St. Mike's College. That's how I know Marcus over there. Yeah, he's my student or my resident. Yeah. Yeah, so like that community keeps me really grounded. It's really fun going to Dean's Cup challenges and like having weekly, events and trivia and just having fun. And then I also play Catan, the board game, competitively. So I started the Toronto Catan Club this year, and we do like, bi-weekly meetings. We play competitive tournaments and just friendly games sometimes. So it's really fun as well. So just keeping yourself grounded and like doing stuff outside of med is important.
So I think for me, kind of touching on something similar, one of the biggest things that I struggle with is in research, it feels like almost everything you try to do at some point it doesn't work. Experiments fail all the time. When you try and do something that everyone says, don't worry, just download this, run it, no problem, you'll go through a month where it's not working, you have to troubleshoot, and people are asking you why you don't you have results yet, what's going on, what's the delay, and it's like, sometimes you can't control it, things are just gonna fail, and that can be really hard to deal with because you think you're coming into a lab at SIG one of the best places in the world to do this kind of work, and even there, things fail, things don't work, and it can be really hard to deal with. It can kind of affect your confidence, and especially for me coming in, a lot of the students in my lab were very senior. I think we had 4 graduate within a few months of each other, and I was there as a new master's student. I didn't really know anything, and they were all publishing in amazing journals and getting their thesis ready and presenting at lab meeting with amazing data, and I was like not even understanding what figures they were showing at the time. So having that huge gap was really intimidating, and every time an experiment failed, it kind of added to imposter syndrome and was really difficult to get over. But I think the other thing, it's kind of like Josh said, being able to talk to them about that and say, what am I, like, is it something I'm doing wrong, or is it just kind of par for the course, and understanding strategies that they use to get through it, or even just hearing from them that it's not just me, everyone goes through those challenges. It's kind of just a part of research that you have to get used to. And I always was thinking, after this, it'll be better. Like, once I fix this, the next thing will work, and it kind of doesn't work that way. The whole point of research is you're constantly solving problems, and I think you grow so much during that process that that's what's been getting me through it, because I look back and the things that I've been able to learn because of the issues that have happened have really made me who I am, and that's kind of a really special process, but it's also challenging. And imposter syndrome and those feelings are something that come and go. You don't just get rid of it and get that monkey off your back forever. It's something that you struggle with 1 week, and then a couple weeks later, something else happens and you kind of feel it again. So I think talking to people, realizing how far you've come, understanding that it's not just you going through those things, and then, like Josh said, having a life outside of what you're doing, other things that bring you joy, other things that you find genuinely interesting and you do for fun is huge. For me, I love to go to the gym in the morning or after work, and it's just something that I do that no matter what, no matter how bad the day is in the lab, in terms of something not going right, I can always have something outside that I'm looking forward to. So I think that's my advice.
Yeah, so I'll first kind of speak about burnout. So kind of last year, because it was my didactic year, it's completely online. It's very much kind of self-directed learning. So it's very easy to fall into the habit of you wake up, you go to class, you keep going on kind of Quirkus or Canvas and kind of going through the modules. And it looks like there's so much that you're never going to be able to get through it. So you kind of get into the mentality of, well, I just have to keep going. So I think really something that I learned was kind of establishing those healthy boundaries, kind of treating school as if it's a 9 to 5 or even kind of a 9 to 7 or 8, but having a set cutoff point where they're like, okay, I'm done school, I'm kind of not going to think about it, I'm going to take time for myself and do something that I enjoy, kind of what others have alluded to. And something too about the program, in terms of more imposter syndrome is everyone comes from different walks of life. So you can enter the program from your second year of undergrad, but many students come from very different kind of backgrounds, and a lot of them are actually already kind of in healthcare. So kind of in my class, we've had a lot of medics, a lot of nurses, physiotherapists. So for me, I came into the program straight after my 4 years of undergrad, and my clinical experience was just kind of volunteering in a hospital and doing that clinical research. I never was really hands-on with patients, so for me, I was like, oh my goodness, they know so much that I don't know, and they've seen so much. But I think kind of just remembering that your peers are resources in themselves. You can learn off of them. So like, for example, those medics in the class, they were really good at interpreting ECGs. So when it came time for me to learn them, it's like, well, I can go ask them questions. The nurses were good at understanding IVs and catheters. So I think just kind of learning from each other, and you are kind of a community where only other people in the program kind of understand what you're going through. You could talk about it kind of with other peers, but they don't really know the rigor of it. So I think just even forming those connections and those friendships within the classroom is really helpful in kind of getting to bounce ideas off of each other and learn. And then in terms of kind of how has it paid off, I think now that I'm in my second year and I'm kind of in clinic, I absolutely don't know everything. There's some days where I feel like I know nothing, but it's really nice to kind of be able to apply it. Because in the moment, sometimes when you're learning, you're like, well, why is this relevant? Or what are the chances I'm gonna see this? And then you're in clinic and you're like, oh, hey, I remember reading about this. Now I've seen it, it's gonna stick kind of a lot more. And just remembering that if there's something that you don't know, you have your mentors, you have your preceptors where you can go and ask questions. And they're really there to teach you. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, where I'm a student, I'm still learning. So it's kind of like, there's an expectation that, yeah, I'm not gonna know everything. Some days I'm not gonna know kind of anything, depending on kind of the slew of patients that come in. But they're kind of the ones that are there to give you the advice. And just remembering that you're in this position and you're being trusted kind of with patients and handling their care. So there's something that kind of your preceptors and your mentors and kind of the admissions committee sees in you, even if you don't always see it in yourself.
So when I first started thinking about switching majors, as I said, I was in life sciences in the beginning. And I used to study in my room, and my dad would kind of like pass by, and he would look at like what I was studying. And as I said, like I took Eco 101 and 102 as an elective. And he would look by and he was like, are you studying economics right now? And I would close my computer really quickly and be like, yeah, Dad, you know, I just thought it was really cool. Like, I don't know, like, it's just nothing. Like, I'm just looking at YouTube, like, whatever. I hid my major from my parents, from my whole family, actually, for an entire year before telling them that I had made the switch. Just because I felt that pressure of, you know, being the first doctor in my family, having that pressure of, like, okay, like, I need to make my parents proud. My parents immigrated to Canada to give me a better life. Like, I might as well, you know, give them what they want. But then making the switch and kind of being able to, you know, throw myself finally into this passion, I ended up telling them at the dinner table, like, oh yeah, guys, by the way, like, I'm in economics now. And they kind of just looked at me and they're like, oh wow, that's actually really great. And I was like, oh, like, you guys are not gonna like grill me for, you know, switching majors. You know, it was a big thing about my dad, because my dad was the really one who was like, yes, you are gonna be a doctor, you're gonna be in healthcare, like, this is what you're gonna do, our whole family is depending on you. And I was really afraid. I actually don't even know why I hid it from him, because at the end of the day, he was very supportive. And as everyone has said on this panel, there's a lot of peers around you that do want to help you, and you do have those resources available. Going into the burnout thing, I think I'm a very big person on ECs. Like, I'm a very big girl where it's like, okay, like, if I see on Instagram that someone needs a marketing intern, like, I'm there, like, I'm applying. And in my second year, like, I kind of got, I would say, like, a little too passionate when I was applying for all these marketing jobs, like working with NFL Canada, and also balancing being a production assistant, working like a 9 to 5, 3 days a week at 19 years old. And at first I was really like, okay, like, I'm gonna go into marketing, like, this is what's gonna happen. I'm just gonna apply to everything and I'm gonna see how it works out. But then I was really looking at my schedule and I was like, oh my goodness, like I have a lot of things to do. But being able to kind of look back, and I had this epiphany 2 days ago. No, it was actually yesterday, on Tuesday. No, I think that was 2 days ago. Yeah, I'm right. I was eating a chicken sandwich at work. I'm an analyst, by the way. I've said this before. And I was going to put away my dish, and I'm looking at all these people, and I'm at this big office down on King Street. And I really realized, I'm like, wow, like I'm like here. Like a year ago, I was passing by, I would walk on Bay and King just to like see what it would be like to like, you know, be around people who worked in business. And now like I'm here like, you know, putting away my plate, and kind of being able to be like, okay, like I deserve to be here. And all the hard work that I've put in to getting to where I am really makes me happy. Sending out my first call sheet, which is basically like kind of like the routine that we would look at when we're filming something in production. I remember sending it, and one of the actresses, she's one of my friends, she like texted me, she was like, yo, like, did you just send me a call sheet? Like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, oh, like, I don't even know, like, this is just what I'm doing. And I remember I used to watch her kind of act on TV and watch like a couple of her episodes, and now I'm literally sending her what she needs to do for the day that she comes on set. And you know, being able to look back and think, 2 years ago I was in high school applying to U of T, thinking that I was going to be a doctor, but always wanting to be working in media or marketing. And now I'm here sending out call sheets, going to my 9 to 5. Sometimes I'll wake up and look at my calendar and think, oh my gosh, I have so much to do. But 2 years ago, I was begging for this. Like, this is something that I genuinely wanted to do. And the great thing about being in my field, especially working in business, is that everyone has a lot to do. So I know that it's just not me. You know, struggling with rejection as well. I used to just send out cold emails to just random sports teams. Sometimes I wouldn't even get like a reply back, or like I would like call the manager, like just kind of like a cold call, be like, hey guys, I'm like starting off my career in media. I just wanted to know if you guys had anything available. They kind of just like hang up on me like mid-sentence. I'd be like, oh, okay. But then being able to kind of have that resilience to keep going, and kind of have this passion in my heart, because I remember, you know, my dad always tells me that I have a really big heart, and he tells me that I have a lot of passion, and being able to have that passion in your heart means that that thing matters to you. And working in marketing and working in the industry, like in the film industry, that's something that you need to have. And yeah, I'm really happy at where I am today, and hopefully I'll get a lot more connection in the future.
Just running low on time, I'm going to skip a couple questions, but the big question here for you guys is, going back to our position here as undergrads, if you can go back and do it all again, what is something that you might change or do different?
I'm still an undergrad, but in my first year, I would say don't be scared. I gave away a lot of opportunities applying to U of T. I really wanted to go to Rotman, and I remember like I had all these ECs, I had all these incredible ECs, but I was too scared. And I was scared to take the interview. I was scared to really apply. But then, you know, what's worse is that now I have to think like, what would my life have been if I did apply? It's always this question, what if? And now when I'm applying to other opportunities, I kind of just go for it. I'm not thinking about the future. I'm not thinking about anything. Like, I don't know what will happen unless I take the shot.
Yeah, I found in undergrad I was really kind of in the mentality of like I need to get into like graduate program, post-grad program. So I think something I would do differently is just kind of remember to enjoy undergrad. Yes, you need the grades and you need the experience, but also take time to kind of join clubs, stay after class and kind of chat with your peers, because that's just equally as important and you're gonna get to where you're supposed to be anyway.
I think for me, if I had to go back to undergrad, it would be don't be so scared of rejection, and if you think something is interesting and you'd like to try it, just put yourself out there. I kind of waited for things to be perfect or the perfect opportunity to come up, and it took me a while to get into research, and eventually I ended up loving it, and I wish I could have done it for more time or had more experience in undergrad, and it was kind of one of those things that I wish I would have been sending more cold emails or going to my prof's office and asking if I could volunteer, doing anything I could to get out there and get experience rather than kind of not really knowing what to do or knowing who to talk to and kind of waiting. I would be a little bit more forthcoming and not be afraid of it turning out poorly or not getting an email response back. Like, those things happen and it's okay, and keep putting yourself out there. Good things will happen, and do it earlier.
Yeah, if I could redo undergrad, I'd say, start early with, keeping up with your grades and not skipping class. So make these habits earlier rather than later. I learned, how to study, how to stay focused around second year. I think a lot of it was attributed to just, being around people, living away from home for the first time, and just maybe a little bit too much partying. But that's also really important for, building friendships. And I'm still friends with people I know in undergrad, and we'll probably be friends for the rest of our lives because we lived together during COVID. Obviously that's really important, but I'd say try to lock in a little earlier rather than later if your goal is med, just so you have the GPA you need to get in. And then for research, yeah, just try to apply early as well. I only started my first project around third year of undergrad. So I'd say if you're interested in research, it doesn't hurt to talk to profs or people early. Don't be afraid of rejection.
Yeah, I kind of would echo everything that everyone has said. One thing that I didn't do in undergrad enough was actually talk to professors. I felt like I have nothing to say to them, so I just didn't go to office hours. And when I had to apply to grad school, yep, that came back to hurt me pretty bad, because then my professors were like, which class were you in again? So talk to your professors is the number one thing. And the other is, I feel like if you're confused about what you're doing, what you're studying, it's okay, it's normal, you don't have to have all the answers. So try as many things as you possibly can. Also, if you can, take some of the fun classes. Undergrad is probably the only time you'll take a random literature class or a tap dancing class or something along those lines and have fun for a semester. Probably won't get to do enough of that at grad school or anything at all. So maybe take some of the fun classes as well.
Well, that kind of opens up the space for any questions you all have.
Josh, when you're doing because you said you start with med school and then you go to PhD, are you guys starting those projects now? Is that how it works? Like you start them at the same time you're doing first and second year of med school, and then you continue with it?
Yeah, you could do that if you have a previous relationship with a lab, if you've done a master's or an undergrad project. But our director really encourages us to be bold and try new projects and new ideas and new labs that you might have not thought of. So for me, I didn't get a lot of wet lab experience in undergrad, so I'm highly considering doing a stem cell lab or a biochemical lab for my PhD. But we do have the CREMS as well, so that's the summer student program for med students, and that's guaranteed to us in first and second year. So you could also do that to get your foot in the door, try a new lab that you might be interested in for the summer. And then if you click with the PI and the environment's good for you, then you can continue with that for the PhD. as well. So you have a lot of options, and you can either do the PhD after first year or second year.
I guess for Josh and Noah, when you were kind of applying for masters and like finding a PI and finding the right program, because at U of T, like it's not based on like your undergrad, it's more on like the PI or like what you want to work into. Like how did you navigate like finding the right program and like the right PI? Because also at U of T there's like so many different like types of programs. Like there's rotation systems, and for others you like find the PI like beforehand.
Sure, I can. Yeah, both of us can answer. I'll answer first from my perspective. So for the masters, I applied. I think it was my last year of undergrad. There was a big like list online of I think professors are looking for students, and there was just one that really like jumped out to me. So I had a background in cardiovascular physiology from my undergrad, and then she was taking kin students, and I was a kin student. Exercise, kin, cardiology, and like all three of those things I had experience in, so I just reached out to her and it just worked out perfectly. But you have the opportunity to shadow the lab for a day. That's what I did. I just talked to all the grad students and asked them a bunch of questions as what the day-to-day environment is like and what I should expect as a student, and then everything kind of worked out that way. So I recommend just talking to the grad students as well, because I know the PI is going to probably sell their lab very well, but you want to also get this perspective of people that are the foot soldiers in the lab, which are the grad students. So just talk to not only the PI but students as well. Yeah.
I think that's great advice. I think the grad students are who you work with most on a day-to-day basis, so starting there is best. And for me, I started with the area that I wanted to be in. I knew I wanted to do something in childhood cancer research, and I didn't really have a preference for wet lab or dry lab, so I kind of had a bit of a free slate there. I kind of just reached out to PIs that I knew were open to having students, and some who maybe didn't advertise that they were open, and just sent as many emails as I could. And like you said, some programs at U of T are rotation first, others aren't, and I think a lot of it comes down to, in that process, if you find a PI that you get along with, a lab that you like, they might even say, here's a potential project for you that you like, then for me at least it was kind of, okay, I want to do that and I don't really want to rotate, but rotating also has a lot of value, and if you're someone who really prioritizes rotating, then focusing on those programs first. But I think starting with looking at the PIs that are out there, what fields you can get into, if you can, talking to grad students about what their actual project entails, so you can kind of understand what some of the buzzwords mean. Like, what does it mean when someone says they do dry lab work? What does it mean when someone says they do certain types of experiments in the wet lab? Is a good place to start. And the programs can seem overwhelming, but a lot of it gets simplified when you kind of have a PI and a lab and a field of study picked out, because a lot of them will be associated with, or they're all associated with multiple or one department. So that makes it a little bit easier. And then grad students in the lab, it's my experience that it's very helpful if you are in the same program or at least a similar one to them, because they can also guide you through that process.
Thank you.
I have a question for Jaelen. So I know that you're the sole undergrad here, and so I was just curious. I know that you're in photo and sports, like analyst. That's like what you're really passionate about. But is that what you think you're gonna envision continuing on doing forward? Because I know that you have already switched economics after that. But do you have any other interests you think could play into your future, since you're like the youngest person on the here?
Yeah, so it's actually really funny that you mentioned the switch again, because I'm thinking of pursuing a career in media and entertainment law. There's a lot of different ways that you can go about your direction, especially in this industry. Like, I could continue being an analyst, maybe work for a bigger company like TD, or work for like JP Morgan, or maybe I could take like the finance route and go into banking or investment banking. But media and entertainment law kind of pulls me in, just because, I like speaking. It is something that I've been doing since high school. As I said, like, I used to do I used to present my research when I was still in sciences and speak in like panel discussions. A lot of my ECs also involve public speaking, like Model UN or like student council, and kind of being able to combine that with my future in law, especially with media and entertainment law as well. At first I thought it was just defending people if they'd done a crime, but it's a lot more bigger than that. So that's something that I'm looking at right now. But I would be open to also working like in the finance field because that's what I wanted to start doing first. But yeah, media and entertainment law, I hope to apply in the US when I graduate, or maybe UBC. I was actually just talking to one of the people here about going to grad school after, but that is something that I'm looking forward to.
I have a question for Isabella.
Yeah.
Is PA for you going to be more of a stepping stone towards an MD, or have you found that PA is kind of like your home?
That's a good question. I've been asked this a lot, and I think kind of a lot of undergrads think like OPA is kind of like one under a doctor. You use that as a stepping stone. I know for me personally, I'm really happy kind of with the program. The reason kind of why I chose the program too is you get a lot of autonomy in your practice. So it's not like you're really limited where you can only do certain procedures or see certain cases. It is really diverse, and what's nice is kind of you could start off working in one specialty and kind of switch to another, and that's something that I really like about the profession. And kind of, you know, even if I want to start off once I graduate doing something more primary care, seeing a variety of things, and then kind of later switching specialties and like more specializing into certain patient populations. So I think kind of for me, I'm happy with kind of the PA role, but I know there's other people who decide that, you know, it just confirms that they really, really love medicine, or they really, really love one particular area of medicine where they want to be more than just kind of a generalist provider and, you know, be kind of a specialist or specialist within kind of a specialty. So yeah.
Awesome. And last one for Yashree. Similar question, do you feel like Mars is going to be somewhere you stay and kind of work up to a bigger position, or has there been a passion in your heart that you wanted to pursue within this field?
I feel like I'm happy where I am right now, and maybe for the next 2 to 3 years, I'm happy to like gain more experience and work on certain programs within Mars. But I think just looking back at like, you know, what I studied, where I ended up, what I actually did, I'm open to actually moving into a different industry completely and gaining more experience there. So yeah, it's just maybe 5 years down the line, something else will interest me, and then I'll land up somewhere else. Who knows? So I have an open mind about that.
Of course, amazing. The world is your oyster.
Cool. Any other questions? We can break it up and get some pizza, do some open networking time. So if you guys are hungry by now.
Let's give it up for our panelists. Thank you so much. Feel free to help yourselves with some pizza. And yeah, thanks again for coming.
Yeah, thank you.